This went online a few weeks ago.
The 6th.
The 6th. The Fine Brothers are a YouTube comedy, I guess, troupe you can call them, group. And they do a lot of these reaction videos where it's actually a brilliant idea. And I guess what the guys that sort of pioneered it, where they'll get old people or teenagers or kids to sit down and look at something that they wouldn't know what they're looking at. So, for example, they had, like, elders react to, like, twerking videos. So old people probably don't know what the hell twerking is or hadn't seen it. So it gets their, like, honest-to-God reaction. Then they ask questions about it. Or they ask teenagers about, like, you know, gay marriage. Or kids about gay marriage. Whatever it is. Something that, like, it's cool to get, like, a unique perspective.
Yeah.
So they ask these kids about, and these are, like, kids are, like, 4 to, like, 8 years old, about Game Boy. And it was very interesting just seeing their reactions running the gamut from, wow, I feel sorry for you old people that played a Game Boy, to one kid saying, oh my God, some 13-year-old's like, oh my God, I bought this, I have this, to another kid who was only like maybe 6 saying, yeah, I can really see how this like was cool back then, like appreciating it and realizing what it was, you know, that it's almost 30 years old, it's 25 years old.
That was the interesting thing for me. When you sent me the topic, I was afraid it was going to be played a little bit too much for the, you know, they don't know what it is less. But you really run a gamut of reactions there. And what's interesting is it kind of mirrors what I see in the store every day. And that's what was interesting to me. Video games aren't like other things. I try to explain this to parents. Kids like games. Kids will go and seek out the history of games on their own because it's something that interests them. So yes, you did get people who had no idea what it was. You know, there was the cute segments where they're putting the cartridges in backwards and upside down. And then you've got the 10-year-old who's like, boom, got it on. I'm playing Tetris, talking about Pokemon and all this stuff and how this is how he plays Pokemon. Like, you know, it ran everywhere from people who had no idea what it was to people who had a rough idea but would never be caught dead playing it to, like, a couple of kids who really just, like, they got it. They were in it, and I think that made the people who were filming it happy. Like, you could hear the people who were filming it get more excited, like, when, like, the kid knows what he's talking about.
There was a kid named Sydney who's a 12-year-old kid, and he said, yeah, I own one of these.
Yeah.
Like, that was the big one. He totally got it, obviously. There was also this cute girl named Sydney that she can't be more than, like, 7 years old. And she sort of understood why it was important, even though she realized the technology was old.
Yes.
You know, so that me was like, wow, this is how and why retro gaming is now popular. I tell you, I go to these conventions, I see teenagers, I see 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds that are finding this interesting. Maybe not the majority, but it's going to continue on for at least a while.
Well, and to me, it's not even just retro gaming. It's just interesting. You know, you hear things about school systems and kids getting dumber. It's interesting to me to see a child no more than 6 or 7 just look at something, you know, look at it turned on and use, you know, cognitive thought and logic to be like, okay, so this is how we proceeded. Yeah. We would not probably have this without this, even though they really had no interest in the item itself. Yeah. They realized that it was because of this item that they do have what they have today when it comes to handheld games or even portable games. Like, a number of kids were smart enough to be like, if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have our 3DSs or our tablets. Tablets kept coming up. You know, this is the predecessor to my tablet. There was a kid, it was adorable. He was like poking the screen. He's like, I can't touch it.
I can't touch it? Yeah.
No, you can't.
Well, what's interesting, though, is that the kids, when they started playing Tetris, they all got into it. They showed, like, they were all like, wow, this is fun.
Yeah.
You know, the one kid didn't understand it, but there she is. I'm looking at her right now. Sydney playing Tetris, like, oh, this is cool. Like, it's just, it's really cool to see these kids. It's like, this is how we were when it came out, and we totally got it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these kids are, like, bridging back to, imagine yourself growing up now with an iPad or you know, phones. It always amazes me to see these 5-year-old kids on phones.
Yeah.
Like, and they know exactly how to use it, what's going on. And we grew up seeing it happen, seeing it go from literally black and white games from Atari 2600 when people still had black and white TVs up until the mid-'80s, a lot of people did, to getting more color TVs, getting different inputs, getting a zapper, you know, getting an analog joystick. And now they're just doing this with their finger. They're just moving shit around instantly.
What blows me away, too, is, like, you know, playing with my brother, playing with my neighborhood friends. You know, we invented, quote-unquote, this shit, you know, like things like tablets and stuff before they ever came because, I don't know, you know, I guess maybe it's not so odd then to see these people see how, you know, one thing leads to another because, you know, we would make up stuff in our head that's basically an iPhone when we're playing as kids, you know, things with, like, maps and, you know, tricorders and telephones and stuff on them, and it's just, it's a natural progression of technology. And I think kids kind of understand that that's where things are going to go.
And, of course, you had the 1 or 2 kids in this video. I think it was about maybe a dozen kids total that they talked to. And of course, you had the one or two kids that are like, "Oh, this is terrible. How could you do it?" That's like anything else, though. You always
Sure.
have kids say like new movies or any new technology they don't appreciate. I appreciate things, mainly because I was always a fan of like we used to go to like Edison's factory in New Jersey and seeing like the old original phonograph from like whatever that was 1914 or
Right.
you know what I mean 1912, and just appreciating the history of it. And so it's just interesting to see the perspective of these kids like toy with this to them. An artifact.
What I thought it was cool too is one of them also mentioned she was really cool. I don't remember the names, but they handed her the magnifier, and she
That's
puts
right.
that, and she was she spoke very well. And at one point she goes, "I feel like this was just a way for them to get more money out of you," like echoing exactly.
I think that was the Sydney.
Yeah, it's probably Sydney. Echoing the
the
things that we say now about DLC, but like all these add-ons, she's like, "This is just another way to get money out of you," with the battery packs and the chargers and all this crap. And I'm like, "You are awesome! Like
Yes.
you may not care about this, but you get it."
Yes.
So I thought that was a lot of fun.
So yeah, check out the video. I'm sure I'll link it below if you're watching this on the YouTubes. And yeah, it's just a fun video. It's good seeing stuff like this that sort of gets an unbiased view of kids looking back.
Yeah, it's interesting.